Welcome everyone who is joining now currently in the live episode of our DNA Extraordinary Leaders in Life and Business Lunch and Learn episode. I first want to actually start with giving a huge thumbs up to all the people who have been listening in the past year. We're at the end of the year and we did an amazing growth with our network, 28% growth in Executive Network. We did about 15 podcast shows offline. We had 10 lunch and learns over the past year with some amazing guests talking about their experience as senior leader within organizations and how they look at things. So not just the standard beautiful reports, surveys of those big guys, but really looking at what do we learn, what can we learn from real life being in a certain position and real life engagements in companies. Now, on request of many, we heard over the year, guys, we really want to understand the value of what it means to be data-driven as an organization. And also what it means to convince our senior leadership to invest more. Why is it so important? After looking within our network, we were glad and we really appreciated, Olga, that you're joining us as co-host. We asked Olga to join us in this Lunch and Learn to explain from her perspective what it means to be a data-driven marketer and how that will help you with growth, with strategy, etc., etc. A little bit about Olga, because I had to look it up. We didn't met before we started talking about the podcast, but she has an amazing track record, guys. So amazing. 15 years of experience in digital marketing for B2B tech companies. And I also work for B2B tech companies, but 15 years experience. And that's experience you guys are going to show, she's going to show you later in this podcast. She was a former co-founder of Art Bizumi. Is that correct?
Yes.
Is that correct? Cool. Several senior director and VP positions. One of them was for Semrush. A lot of you guys will know Semrush, but also for VM software. And amazing background. Currently, you're the CMO for GoPhoto?
Yep.
Cool. So I did it correct. I presumed it correct. So I'm really excited for today to have a conversation with you, Olga. And again, thank you so much for joining. I really appreciate it.
Thank you so much for inviting. This is like one of my favorite topics. And unfortunately, it's not that frequently covered, probably because of the complexity of it. Or, I mean, the discussions are tend to be kind of superficial and like, hey, everyone is talking about like data-driven marketing, but very few succeed in doing so. So I'm so excited about today's conversation. So thank you very much.
Cool. Just a bit of householding for the people joining live. At the end of the session, you will have full opportunity to ask your questions. If you have questions which are pending, feel free to put them in the chat, and we will handle them at the end of our session. A little bit about me. You guys already know me, so I'm going to keep it quite short. But I'm the co-founder of DNA. We are an organization which focuses basically on 4 pillars of service. We coach. We consult, we connect people like you with other specialists, and this is also one of the opportunities to do so. And we co-create, and this is one of our co-creation opportunities where we work with executives to give you guys the information you would not get by reading just a simple report. Olga, data-driven marketing. We initially started with a conversation around how to interpret data and make an impact. One of the conversations we had this week in our pre-conversation is that, like you also mentioned, data-driven marketing is something actually quite really vague. The question is, what is it actually?
Yeah. Oh my God, I love this. I love the start. So I think data-driven marketing starts with you first paying attention to data, and secondly, actually using it for making decisions. Because it's very often, in my experience, I've seen the cases when there is some data, there is some analytics set up, but when it comes to the forming strategy, when it comes to establishing budgets, when it comes to understanding the process and like what's working, what's not working, all of a sudden data is being ignored, and we go with gut feeling, we go with the industry knowledge, so to speak. And hey, it's like 2023. And I think if there is anything that the past years, like the past few years showed us, is that your experience expires so quickly. You cannot rely on, and at the same time, you cannot rely on the gut feeling, because you know what, there are so many factors that you need to take into account that unfortunately human mind sometimes cannot grasp fully. So I would say first and foremost, data-driven marketing is when your decisions are truly backed up with the data.
I think this is a really good answer, and what I want to add to this one, because I've seen that still now, after 25 years, I've done some marketing lead roles in the past as interim, and every time when we have a conversation around strategy, it's basically we define a strategy: 5% growth, 10% growth, reduce churn with X% by XYZ, and then we talk to sales, and they come up with 2 or 3 clients who have an idea on where the future is, and then we start building our strategy around that topic. It's almost never funded by real, actual data. Now, before we start deep diving in the marketing aspect of data, there's a lot of data out there, and a lot of data you gather within your organization. Often, my feeling, I'm going to talk about feeling, because it may not be true, but my feeling is that we are looking at data from a siloed perspective. We have the customer experience team, and we have Tom on here, who's a real customer experience advocate. We look at the customer experience side of things, then we have marketing, and then we have sales, and those are all different silos. And somehow it's quite difficult to get all those silos working together to shape the future of your strategy. What will be your takeaway if you look at those silos? How can we bring them together?
Oh my God. Okay, so the second question, and again, I love it. So 100%, this is my experience as well, and your feeling is spot on. Every company has tons of data. The problem is every department has their own source of truth. And then, like from the marketing perspective, let's talk about collaboration with the customer teams. It's usually like tug of war situation when marketing has this data set and this interpretation, and they say, hey, we're working great. It's the sales team. They're not doing their job. And the sales team, hey, look at our conversion rates. These are great. It's you guys who are not providing us enough quality leads. And so the first and immediate takeaway from, again, what you just shared and from my experience, it is that you need to create unified, consolidated data source. And this data source starts with building like proper data warehouse that connects all these siloed data sources from different departments into one view. And it sounds easy, but it usually takes like years, because you need to agree on definitions. Like, okay, what do you consider to be a success? What you need to track? You need to agree on things like attribution windows. You need to agree, okay, who do we consider, our customer? What do we consider expansion? So a lot of like KPI discussions, etc. Obviously, there is the technical aspect. Okay, so how do we clean up data? How do we make sure that there is like the duplication done, and so on and so forth. But after you are doing this exercise, your world is so much better, because everyone has one source of truth, and it already eliminates so many pending questions, concerns, and sometimes frustrations, just because you see the same picture as, again, the sales leader, the customer leader, CEO of the whole organization. So first and foremost, connect all data sources in one single source of truth. And secondly, agree on what you define what. So these are like 2 key takeaways for me.
Yeah, these are great. These ones are great. Often it's disparative, and we get in all of discussion. I've been in many board meetings and where we talk about strategy, and the first question: how do we define this strategy? What are the foundations of the strategy?
Yes. And another thing to that is we're usually tracking data and everyone forgot what we're actually tracking. So it's very often, okay, so these numbers dropped. And especially when you're a newcomer, you tend to question certain things and sometimes challenge certain practices. And it has been a repetitive experience for myself that you come into organization and they're tracking something and it's just historical setup. So there is no like real foundation nowadays to track these particular numbers and this particular view. But because this is like the historical setup, you just keep on doing this. So again, when you are going to do this exercise of uniting all the data sources, you actually have, again, this conversation, okay, but why are we tracking these metrics? Okay, and why are we defining this? And when you have clean data, it's so easier, again, to also prove, certain the need for, again, for data and the use of it, just because these numbers are going to be first fresh, secondly reliable, and so it will be much easier for you to come up with a strategy.
Well, you mentioned KPIs, and I think this is one really important. Look, I work on when I work on change management programs within organizations and on strategy programs, we always talk about KPIs, and you have the standard set of KPIs. And often I wonder, how do these KPIs are measuring basically what we are doing, and the number of sales, the number of conversions, the number of blah, 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 blah. But KPIs are evolving. In the past, we talked about goal setting. Now we talk about OKRs. Things are evolving around the whole perception of how do we measure success for an organization. Now, I'm wondering from your perspective, if you see a trend in changing KPIs, or what are the KPIs you should use, and what can you derive from that? Because I think that it's great to look at the past, better to think about the future. The past is gone. We can't do anything about it. The moment you have done it, you can't influence it anymore. But the thing is that how do we tell the story? Because I think marketing, and with everything we do, we tell stories. People love stories. When I'm in a boardroom or when I'm talking in my coaching practices with executives, I talk about stories, life stories. And those stories are the ones that drive our future. Looking at KPIs, what do you think is important, one, to measure initially, if you took it in the early stages? And what are the KPIs? What was the evolution of those KPIs towards the future? What should you be measuring? How should you look at that data?
Yeah, well, I'll tell you a story. So when I joined Veeam, which is like a huge enterprise company and now a unicorn, I remember it very vividly that marketing was measured by qualified leads. And as we were evolving, again, there were these conversations about, okay, but the sales team do not always find our marketing qualified leads actually of high quality. And so through the years, we were coming, towards each other. And through the years, I've seen this progress from, okay, functional KPIs becoming secondary KPIs, and the revenue numbers becoming the unanimous shared KPI across the board. And this is the trend that I'm seeing these days, and I'm super happy about this. Companies realize that, okay, you can generate as many leads as you can, MQLs, SQLs, conversion rates may grow insanely, but it does not really matter if you do not generate revenue. And thus the whole organization should be measured by revenue. And the concern that I usually receive at this point is, okay, Olga, but what happens with activities like brand marketing, or dark social media that we cannot measure by revenue? directly, but that's the case. Like when we talk about the general efforts of the marketing, again, if your social media game does not translate at some point into, let's say, brand organic growth, then you are probably doing something wrong. So yes, you may not measure brand marketing directly by the directly attributed revenue, but you can build this journey between, again, dark social to direct traffic to branded organic traffic. And that way you can still connect the final result, the revenue, back to everything that you are doing, which can be hardly measured, again, directly. So the second point here is that revenue is is a very direct KPI, again, across the board. It is something that every department understands, right? So, and if you have shared KPI like revenue, again, between the sales, all of a sudden, because you have the shared KPI, you are on the same side, you're in the same boat. So it's no longer, again, the conversation of, okay, your MQLs are not of the great quality. Oh, no, you guys do not follow up in the right time, right? So, okay, you see that, okay, revenue is dropping. So what should we do? Let's have this conversation together. So this trend of unification, I would say, is something that I think makes perfect sense for me, but it also shows how companies are now become way more focused on, on the growth, on the direct growth, and are less charmed by, amazing stories of some initiative, of some crazy creative campaigns, because they're like, at the end of the day, it's always, okay, this campaign has been super creative, thank you very much, but what revenue did it bring? Yep.
Yeah, what I found is Wendy actually posted this week a post, and I found it actually really interesting. She said, you guys are, you do a lot of marketing, you do a lot of posts, you connect with a lot of people. Why is your revenue not growing? What is going wrong? Why is your revenue not impacted by all the activities you do? And I really enjoyed that post because it gets you thinking. We're doing a lot of efforts. We're doing marketing, we're doing sales, we have a sales team, we have an operations team, we have customer experience teams out there who are doing all their best to influence the revenue. But somehow it's difficult to measure. And you're mentioning one thing really great. We all targeted on revenue. In the past, it was different. Your MQLs, your SQLs, that doesn't say anything. My experience is quite simple. I've done quite of those. Marketing comes up with leads. We had it in Salesforce. We implemented everything, and you saw so many MQLs. And then they were pushed to the sales pipeline, and nothing was followed up because sales thought they were bullshit. So at the end of the day, we didn't get anywhere. The thing is that how do we make sure that that data-driven culture, that view on how to get that revenue, that culture is driven within marketing teams and the broader organization? And this is actually a question I have. How do we foster that? A data-driven culture across the organization?
Okay. Yeah. So, well, first, yeah, obviously it's not an easy task. Otherwise, again, every company would have been, data-driven, and we wouldn't be discussing this. So I think first and foremost, it starts with leadership and the mindset of the company, right? Because you cannot be data-driven company, but then when you, again, being asked about the results, everyone asks your personal interpretation and not, again, data-driven picture. So it definitely starts with leadership, and this is what I've been seeing in my experience. So both Veeam and Semrush, and now the GoPhoto company that I recently joined, they're all hyper growth companies, and the essence of their decision making on the leadership level is data. So first, obviously, yeah, you agree, again, on the C-level. Obviously, it also comes from the founder and their mindset that you pay attention to data. As a leader, you need to instill this habit. Secondly, it all starts with people. And it means that if you don't have a designated function with the organization to do data analysis, to do data analysis across departments and not just within certain functions, then again, I don't want to say you're doomed, but you've got a problem to fix. So establishing a dedicated function towards business analytics, which is cross-functional, is so important, because it's usually when, a marketing department, let's say, they hire a marketing analyst. So you have the marketing view on certain analytics and you have marketing interpretation. But again, in this case, you're lacking the connection with all the other departments. And honestly, also, again, marketing analytics is slightly different from, again, machine learning, skill set, statistical analytics. So the question here is, how do you build this, two-way connection? So there is, again, marketing view on the analytics, and there is, again, this business view on the analytics, which does not have the marketing bias on data interpretation. So I would say this is definitely the second step. And the third step is enabling, the tool set, the processes for it. So obviously, again, having this data warehouse built out, building, the regular process of data reviews, of data revisit, and the way that, again, we have all the data intertwined between from all the multiple data sources. I would say like these three things are key. So growth mindset, a dedicated function, and again, platform and processes established.
I like the dedicated function, but that's often missing. Data analytics is really a different specialism. I've seen it in a lot of our companies. I'm really data driven, but also logical. I worked for 20 years for data organizations, so I didn't have much choice in that perspective. But that specific function who is able to get all of that information together. Hey, I want to give the word to Tom, because Tom has a question, and it's easier for me to let Tom ask his question himself, knowing him. So join the conversation, Tom.
Hi, Rahim. Hi, Olga.
Hi.
And hi, Wendy.
Nice meeting you. Hi.
Hi. Yeah, I have a question regarding the KPIs, which you touched earlier on. Isn't the problem with KPIs often that people select KPIs either because that is what everybody does, or because it's the only thing they have at hands, rather than really analyzing, okay, what KPI has a real correlation with the objective we want to reach, right? You've given examples of qualified marketing leads and so on. I usually use the example because we are more on the post-sales side of customer churn, where I think 90% of the companies tracks NPS because it helps them to predict churn. Well, if there's one thing NPS does not do is predict churn. I mean, there's no correlation at all between NPS and the churn, but everybody does it because everybody does it. So my question is, isn't the problem with KPIs more that people just select KPIs because everybody does it, or it's the only thing we have, rather than really analyzing what KPI correlates really with our objective we want to reach? And then if you can do that, one or two KPIs is more than enough, rather than having 6 or 7 where, it just, you just go berserk because you have to track 5, 6, 7 KPIs.
Yeah, this is a great question. So first, yes, it's so easy just, to follow suit and just, track what everyone's tracking. And here I would say the question first and foremost to the leadership. To give you an example, as a leader, what I try to do whenever I join a new company or a new project, the first thing I do that not everyone usually enjoys is I challenge the general view on, okay, what we are tracking, and the most important factor why we're doing so. So like we discussed, it's very often like the historical setup, someone decided so, or someone read about this on LinkedIn, let's say, that it should be tracked. So yes, and I think, again, the main task here is on leadership side to challenge the common practices. And what I love to say, to create your own best practices. Because going back to also the question that Rahim raised, like, okay, so we're doing all of this, but we're not growing. So it means that you're on the wrong path, right? So the first thing that you're doing is, okay, you go and revisit everything that you've done before. And it includes, again, the way that you track everything. And to give you a more specific example, so I had this experience in one of my companies. So we used to have like certain business segment split that we were tracking, and the revenue has been decreasing. But this segmentation that we used did not really tell us any story. So everything was, okay, kind of dropping. So what we did is we revisited the segmentation itself, because again, it was not telling us any story, it was not giving us any insights. And so the moment that we started doing more more segmented way within the existing segmentation, all of a sudden we realized that, hey, the problem is on the expansion side. So we saw a certain pattern within the behavior. So again, the bottom line, leadership should challenge all the practices and create their own on a regular basis. The second factor that you mentioned is I would say a very common mistake in general for those who do not have like the maths background is mixing correlation with causation, right? So NPS, churn, oh, they're kind of about the similar things, so why don't we connect? Or hey, our NPS has been decreasing, our churn rate has been increasing, let's connect them. So obviously, again, statistically, you need to prove that there is correlation, right? And so it's very often that we just rely on our, on very quick and easy conclusions. Oh, we see certain things, so we think that are happening simultaneously, so we think that they're connected. The basic approach is in analytics, okay, you have the hypothesis that churn and NPS are connected, you need to prove that they are connected. If you haven't proven it, then the correlation does not exist. So be brave and challenge, what you're seeing around, because, hey, if you're going to do what everyone is doing, you're not going to be the leader, right? Because you're going to do the same thing as others. So think about what can be done differently. And I would say also challenge yourself as well, because the more experience you get, the more confident you are about your own conclusions. And you fall into this trap of, again, your previous experience. So yeah, I would say it's hurting for your ego, but hey, the first person that you need to challenge is yourself. And if you think that something is connected, go to the analytics team and double check with them. Is it really connected? Am I doing it right, or am I doing it wrong?
Oh, love it. Love it. Amazing answer. We're running at basically the end of our 30 minutes lunch and learn. I want to open it up for questions, but before we do that, what will be your, let's say, your top 3 tips on making data-driven strategies a part of the executive way of steering the organization?
Okay, I'll tell you this. You already mentioned one, which is the most important, is telling the stories. Know your audience. Your audience is executive audience. So please don't show these crazy Excel sheets which say nothing. Treat your analytics data as a marketer, meaning when you build a landing page, you think, okay, I don't want to overcomplicate it for my audience, so I'm going to have this pretty layout, and I'm going to provide very clear selling points, and there will be CTA, what I need from the audience, what I expect from the audience. treat analytics data the same manner as you treat landing pages, meaning you don't show the whole like build up there. Instead, you show the selling points, what needs to be shown, and you provide very clear conclusions. And most important, you provide clear CTA. So know that your audience is executive and prepare the view for them with clear takeaways and let them know what you expect from them. So that's, I would say, the principle just for data presentation. And talking more about telling stories with data presentation is visualization is again important, because the comparison that I like to make is the data is like a pile of Lego parts. And I mean, if it's not properly, built out and put all together, it's like, it's no fun, it's hurting, no one enjoys it. So instead, use your data parts as Lego parts to build something meaningful and present the meaningful picture to the executive audience. Don't just throw in this pile of separate data points like, hey, deal with it. So be a marketer of your own data and tell the story and prepare it for the executive audience. And most important, add the CTA, call to action, what you want from the executive team after showing your presentation. And I'm quite sure it's going to be great for you.
Amazing. It's an amazing business case for growth. How do you pitch your business case for growth? Hey guys, this was really amazing. I think we added a lot of value to the people who are in the call. Just a bit of a householding, what's going to happen next year. For next year, we have a lot of cool things planned. Of course, we're going to continue with our Lunch and Learns. So you're going to get them every single month with amazing people like Olga joining us. But probably Tom will join us again with his experience on customer experience. I think that's also a really important topic to tackle. Another thing we are currently doing is we are launching new online courses. Online courses, which are basically simple, it's just a brain dump on our experiences. And we're also inviting people like Olga and Tom in the future to add more short courses to help you guys get a bit of a different thinking, to get you guys started with your organization. If you're startup, scale up, or corporate, give you some new insights, new views on how you can tackle certain situations. In addition, we are planning to do quarterly meetings also initially here in Barcelona. We're going to also invite some guests to Barcelona. It's a beautiful city. The weather is now quite okay looking outside. But I want to get you guys in Barcelona to have a real good conversation. And the idea basically is not even the idea. As you guys know, we do peer-to-peer. We are inviting peers to talk about their topics from a marketing perspective, operations perspective, customer experience. We're trying to get those guys together. And that's an amazing way of learning fast, learning from other people's experience and getting those different perspectives. So that all is going to be coming in the next year, just for you guys to know. So keep watching us, subscribe to our channels, join us. We really appreciate you guys being part of our community. Olga, this was amazing. I want to say fucking amazing. I can say fucking amazing. It's my own podcast. Who cares?
Yeah.
This was fucking amazing. This was fucking amazing. I want to open up the floor if there are questions. So I'm going to shut up for a second. It's really difficult for me, guys. You know that. I can't shut up. I'm going to give you a few seconds. If you want to ask a question, unmute, put it on your camera if you want to, if you're dressed and you're looking cozy with your Christmas hat. But feel free to open up your mic and if you have a question. I'm going to shut up now for a few seconds. It's quiet. I see George.
Yes.
You have a question. How do you make data analytics for non-high-tech businesses?
Okay. So I hate that my answer is probably too simple, but I would say actually the same manner. So I wouldn't necessarily see a lot of differences in the approaches between high tech versus non-high tech, because at the end of the day, the like key pillars for building data analytics are the same. First, define the goal. Okay, so why do you need data analytics? So do you want to understand like what happened in the past? Do you want to understand what are the future trends? So be specific about your goals. Secondly, again, understand what you want to track based on these goals. So again, whether you want to expand in the market, whether you want to compete your competition, you beat your competition, whether again you want to do like the historical analysis of the revenue factors and so on and so forth. So once you define what you're going to track, then make sure that you have right people in place. I understand that probably you may not have like the capacity to hire, you know, full-time team for doing, you know, analytics and machine learning, but hey, there are so many part-time analysts and tools that enable machine learning without having a full team in place. So making sure that you have it covered from the human resources, and finally implementing the tools. So again, the question here is, Olga, we don't have the budget, for example, for it, like to implement, you know, expensive BI or something. So, but yeah, there are like free tools like Data Studio and the Google Analytics. There is a free version for you. So again, outsource, hire a freelancer to help you set up the tracking, and there you go. So the steps are more or less the same. The question I think here is about the capacity, like the dedicated time. And here you find the balance, but the most difficult part, it's usually just to start. And for that, you need obviously to do a pitch to your leadership team. And you already know that, okay, it's going to be not the analytics exercise, it's going to be the marketing exercise, building, you know, as a kind of sales pitch for building data. And I love what Tom just shared. Like, you can start with Excel if you have no budget. Yeah, 100%. You can start with Excel. And yeah, and there are like, again, tons of tools out there, tons of people who even offer, you know, free consultation. And LinkedIn provides tons of tutorials and cheat sheets and how-tos. So just start with it.
Like it. I think that just start is the key here. And also to add to this one, look, we are also a small company. I work for corporates, and I worked for corporates for years and for startups, scale-ups. We're a small company, but we also use our data analytics through our CRM, through what we see happening in LinkedIn, on our posts, the engagements, etc. But also in our community, we really check where do we actually add value, and we continually ask also our audience, where can we add value? Because that's the thing, eh? It's not only gathering the data, but you can also ask. Contact your top 50 clients and ask them, how are we adding value, or where can we add more value to the success of your organization? It's a basic data set, but it will really help you get an outside-in view on your business and how you're performing, and not how you think you're performing because the data says something. I think one of the takeaways I have also from this meeting today is data can help us drive and foster data-driven decisions, but not everything is about data. Not everything is about data. I see a question coming in from Priscilla. How can data help services company generate more leads, and where to start with data?
Yeah, okay. So how can data help? Okay, where do we start with data? Okay, so first and foremost, if you're already an established business, I would definitely, my first immediate step, go and check the historical data. Again, understanding what exactly have we been tracking, like what's the attribution window, etc., yada yada. But the most important thing is use what you already have, and play around with it, right? So try to identify the patterns, the commonalities in what you see. So that's the first thing. If you don't have the historical data, then, okay, first and foremost, start, again, doing this, like we already discussed, like get buy-in, implement certain tools. And again, understand you want to generate more leads. Okay, so think about what type of leads actually you want to generate, right? So if you have historical data, you may realize that your growth lies not within the amount of leads, meaning it's not more leads, but probably it's even less leads, but of different quality coming from different sources. So, and this is where I really appreciate, the qualitative side that you, Rahim, just mentioned. So if, for example, again, you don't have historical data, go and talk to your customers. And again, you may understand that it's not the question about the quantity of leads that you generate, but the quality. And again, generating fewer leads, but with higher average revenue per user may be more beneficial and ROI efficient for you than the quantity. So these are, I would say, like 2 immediate steps that I would take. So again, checking historical data, if not, starting doing this. And again, if both are not available yet, also talk to your customers.
So, Priscilla, I hope this answers your question. I may have something to add, just a bit from my experience. When we started DNA a few years ago, when we moved to Spain, we had a vision of developing extraordinary leaders in life and business, and our focus area was only on senior leaders, executives. And we thought it was a really great market. The problem, however, is that senior leaders and executives are quite silent online. They don't show themselves. There are only a few who like to show themselves, a few who like to connect. So we found that it was really difficult to engage with those guys. We based on our conversations with our network, we found out that these were not the guys we should convince. It's actually the guys working for these guys. And we started slowly changing our focus and adding more value, not only on executive level, but helping you guys become the best leader you can be. And not only in business, by the way, we also focus on life, because I'm a strong believer that you cannot be a leader if you're not in control of your life. You're going to be running on adrenaline. You're going to be trying to get your career up and running and be the best leader, and then you drop. It's continuously looking at the information you can get. And sometimes it's a lot. And if you have a lot of clients, a lot of data, it's great. If your market is large, it's amazing. If you do B2C, you'll have a massive volume of data at a certain point. In B2B, there will be a lot less. And when you are a smaller organization like we are, as consulting organization, you will have, again, less information. But it is trying to figure out what happened in the past, what data can we gather, what data can we gather for free, because that's the majority, and then look at how can we build up our way of working to get additional data. We use our CRM. We are starting to figure out more ways of engaging with clients on a different way that's giving us more information. It's a process. It's a continuous process of wanting to learn. One thing I want to put in there is that try to have a legitimate and a real interest in what you're offering to clients, what their pain points are. Make sure that in everything you do, you gain a real understand on who the person is you're trying to help. I'm not saying sell to, because that's, again, a thing. We are selling like hell. I see it on LinkedIn, all those posts. Look at my services. Look how good I am. And I'm going, yeah. You're one of the 20 guys sending me an email offering services. People are not looking for that. People are looking for you to add value. And for adding value, you need to do A/B testing. You need to test what message works, what message doesn't work, and how can we start building that out. Hey, looking at the time, 45 minutes. I always promise you guys to stay within the 45 minutes. Thank you so much, Tom, by the way, for joining. As always, appreciate it. Have a good weekend, buddy. It's 45 minutes. If there's no more questions, then I'm going to slowly end the call. If you guys have questions, you want to have more information, feel free to connect with Wendy or myself or Olga. via LinkedIn, send us a direct message or contact us directly. We're always happy to help. If you have topics you want to address in the future, of course, contact us again. Ending this, Olga, you were amazing. You rock. Olga is our rock star of the month.
Oh my God. Thank you so much. You are too kind. I enjoyed our conversation so much. And yeah, Tom has already left, but Tom and Rahim, you guys definitely, enriched the whole discussion with so many great points that you added. So thank you a lot. And hey, the good conversation always starts with the great questions. So Rahim, these were great questions. Thank you very much.
Thanks all. Have a lovely Christmas. Enjoy the time with your family, friends, whatever you're going to go do. But take some time to rest. Take some time to enjoy life at itself. And I look forward to see you guys next year. And Priscilla, yes, there is a replay. I will share it with you. Have a lovely day, weekend, and see you soon.